Welcome back to another episode of Worth the Wait. We're so happy to be here. Today's topic that we're talking about is liking your partner versus loving your partner. And this became like really popular recently when Michelle Obama was talking about how she loved Barack but didn't always like him at times. And I saw a lot of people getting confused on what that meant. And that was a conversation I had with somebody recently. So I thought it would be good to just talk about what that looks like in a relationship and how to overcome it. So I know that there have been times in our relationship to where I didn't like Bree. And I think that I didn't know it at the time. That's what that was. But I realized that's what it was as I grew a little bit older and started reading things and started watching things. And first, what that looks like, at least to me, is that the commitment of what you're supposed to be doing and how you show up in your relationship is still there. However, the enthusiasm and the romance kind of gets lost. So it kind of reminds me of like a lot of people who hate their job, right? You hate your job, but you show up every day and do your job because you made that commitment to the company that you were going to do the job. But when you get there, your enthusiasm, your want for it, how happy you are to be there, it just isn't there. So I know that there were times to where, I may have showed up in a relationship and it's like, I'm doing the things I'm supposed to be doing. I do the things I tell you I'm going to do. But maybe on a Friday night, I'm like, I'm just about to go hang out with my friends. Or I'm just going to sit on the couch and play a game versus being in the bed and watching a movie. And that's the times to where it's like, I love you, so I'm still here. I'm still committed to what we're doing. But the extra romance, the enthusiasm, the holding, the touching.
You can feel it.
You can feel it. It's just not there. And I know that happens sometimes in relationships. Have you felt that? I don't know. I know I've felt that before with you. Have you felt that with me at times in a relationship too?
Oh, plenty. It was usually always around money.
A little bit of being a brat.
Or food. Or aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's funny because like Dre mentioned, so I'm more of a brat. So he'll know immediately when I'm not feeling him. Like when I'm just like, leave me alone. Like it's on my face. It's in my voice. Like I move in a way where like, I am going to let you know I'm so frustrated. And he is a lot more just kind, and like you said, like I'll still do all the same things, I just won't do it with enthusiasm. For me, I just won't do the things and I'll look at him like, nope. Like, and it's terrible. And it's something I'm working on, and I don't do it often, but it is funny because in those moments I still love the crap out of you. But I think when, especially I would say this for women, when we are stressed out or dealing with something or just very emotional, it's easiest to take it out on the person closest to us because we know that that person's going to give us the most grace, and that at the end of the day they know us so well that it's like, I'm just having a moment. But I am trying to challenge myself, and this from asking you like, hey, I have a therapy session coming up. Is there anything you feel that I need to work on or I could do better on? And it's in those moments where I realize like obviously I love you, but in the moments where I dislike you or I'm not happy with you or because I'm frustrated, not putting that on you, that's hard to kind of deal with and figure out. And I think that you are a very mature person, and just overall, you're like a superhuman, and most men don't have that level of like maturity or patience. And so I know most of the women listening, they probably feel those feelings often, and not in the way that you do it, where I see you doing it and you're just maybe not doing it with a big old grin on your face, but actually seeing and feeling a man like push away from them and like just be awkward and, not making the initiative to be attentive and almost like, like neglecting you in a sense.
I mean, I think that you're not giving yourself enough credit.
Me?
And I think that
Okay.
I think that I can identify situations in our relationships to where you didn't like me, right? Or you weren't really feeling me, but you still showed up because you loved me. Now, the food thing, the money thing, that's just like small little instances that don't really have any bearing on the long-term part of our relationship.
Yeah.
But without getting too deep into things, after our wedding, Bree was a little disappointed in how we came into like the now we're having sex part of our marriage, and felt like I kind of dropped the ball on that a little bit because we had waited for so long. And during that time, like, I don't want to get too much into it, but like during that time, you still loved me, but you weren't really like feeling me for a few months. Like I think it's safe to say like you didn't really like me. And every day she would cook me dinner. She'll do things that shows like I'm still here in this relationship, but the enthusiasm, the happiness, like all that was kind of like lost a little bit. And we've had that both on both sides of our relationship to where it's like, I'm here. If you need me, I'm running, breaking through a door. I'll kill anybody for you. But also at the same time, like the day to day, I'm just like, because of something that has happened, because of the way I feel like I was treated or I am being treated currently, I'm just not as enthusiastic to be romantic or to be all lovey-dovey or like, trying to do those things.
I'm so glad you brought that up because honestly, I wasn't thinking of that, but that is like a real moment for me where I was like, doing sessions with therapists, and I told her I was like, we need to do a couples like session because I needed him to understand like that really hurt my feelings. And for him, again, like as mature and as patient and kind as you are, you're also very young. And at that time, I was like, the reason why I wasn't showing you dislike was because I know that you didn't intentionally not do what I expected. Also, I am a huge hopeless romantic, and like I expect big large gestures like from all of the movies and all the things, and like I just assumed that our first time or whatever would be a certain way and kept waiting for that to happen. And I realized I was like, I never actually told you that. So the reason why, and I think this is, key when you're in a relationship, why when you are in dislike with someone, instead of just immediately giving them all your negative energy and not choosing to love them through that, you have to ask yourself, like, what role did I play in this? Because you can get over whatever happened together, but like you have to check yourself too. And I think even for me, I was in my feels, but I knew it wasn't intentional. And I was more so trying to figure out like, why was that such a big deal to me? And then what we revealed through therapy was like, it had to do with a lot of traumas and baggage and past relationships that I was in, why I expected this thing from you. So I think it's important in those moments to just check yourself and really, reflect on like, why do I even feel this way?
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And with everything that we talk about that happens in relationships, there's always two sides to it, right? It's always the person that maybe isn't liking and then the person that is receiving that and kind of trying to figure out what to do in that moment. And we've both been in both of those situations. So I think what you said is important, is like identifying within yourself, like what is the actual issue, what is the problem, so that you can then communicate it to your person so that they can try to change or try to make any accommodations that will make you feel better. I know that if we're going back to what this was based off of with the Barack and Michelle situation, I remember reading Barack's book, and before she even came out, this was long ago. I think this is The Audacity of Hope. Barack wrote this when he was a senator, and when he was talking about how even when he was in state legislation, state politics, how he would have to go to all these different places and like go all throughout the state on the weekends, on Sundays, running campaigns. And it was kind of cool having this ambition when it was just him and Michelle. But then once the kids start coming, it's like, yo, you leaving me here with these kids. And like, I understand, like, it's like that battle internally in your relationship. Like, I understand, I know you're a great person. I know that the ambition that you have and what you want to do has a bigger purpose to it. But still, like, these kids be driving me crazy and I feel like I'm doing this by myself. So it's like, you still have that commitment of love because you know that heart, like you said, you know the heart of the person, but your certain circumstances sometimes are just like, I just, I can't, this day to day is not working for me. So one thing I would say is that once you identify what the issue is, putting together a plan with timelines, I think really helps. Like if there's something that's happening and for whatever reason it's happened or it needs to happen, whether that's a sacrifice that's being made, whether that's somebody traveling for work and they're leaving you at home with the kids, like putting together a plan to say like, all right, once we get here, then this will happen. Or once we get here, that will happen. Or we'll maybe get a nanny in a situation like that, like part-time help you with something. And then I won't I'll take away an expense that I have to help pay for that. It's like trying to find that compromise. But if you guys are just kind of floating along and in that space, like, I don't know why they mad. Like, I feel like I ain't do nothing wrong. And then the other person's just sitting there looking at you feeling like you need to change, but they haven't really told you what the issue is. I feel like that's how relationships end up getting worse and people end up breaking up or getting like to divorce.
Yeah, no, and that stuff is serious. I remember telling Dre, like, you will not leave me barefoot and pregnant in this house, and you're just traveling the world filming podcasts. I was like, I'm coming too, and we need to have a nanny. And I was like very adamant on like, don't think that this is the lifestyle we're going to bring children into, because I will not feel like a stay-at-home mom. Like, I don't want that. And I don't think that often, you know, people communicate stuff like that or are honest about it, because I think they just assume like, oh, like this is what they'll do or this is how it'll work. So setting those expectations for sure are important. And on the other side, right, I think that there's this thing when you are dating or when you're new in a relationship, or especially when you're maybe dating someone who is potentially entertaining multiple people, that they like you, they do not love you. And so in moments where you or they realize that there's no like benefit, or you're no longer convenient to them or serving a purpose because it's like and it's not love, they're on to the next thing. And I think a lot of times women, we're looking for love in a like relationship, and we're expecting love results, we're expecting love actions, when in reality this person really just likes us for the moment. And it's important to kind of weed out and understand like when someone likes you versus loves you, so that you know how to react and to be, and again, expectations to have.
Yeah, I completely agree. I say that all the time, is that we have to understand there's a difference between dating and relationships. Because I always, and I learned that early on when it came to giving people advice, that the advice that you give for dating is different than the advice that you give for relationships. There are a lot of people out here who are great daters. They take you on the best date you ever been with, but they don't want the commitment, the accountability, the responsibility that it takes to actually be in a relationship. So you have to understand that. And that's what Bria is talking about, is like the like versus love. The love is the commitment. The love is that in spite of what's going on, I'm still going to be here and honor and do my responsibilities that I committed to.
Yeah.
Versus the like is just like, wow, this is fun, I'm here. But the moment that this isn't fun and I don't like it anymore, I'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
So something you have to keep in mind. But like versus love is something that we all have dealt with. If you've been in a serious relationship and a truly committed relationship with somebody, something that we all dealt with before. It sucks in that moment, especially if you're, I mean, from both sides, really, it sucks, but there is a way to push through it. And like we said, it's just having that open conversation. If you need help and you need a therapist to help like mediate or have that conversation, make sure you go to a therapist and have somebody to be able to translate what the other person is saying. But I think as long as you put together a plan of how you'll get out of that space or what the answer or solution may be, then I think you'll be in a good place.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Worth the Wait podcast and our YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast app, please review, please 5 stars if you would like to. But also hit that plus button up top and subscribe to the show so that every time a new episode comes out, you can have a quick listen. Make sure you follow us on social media at It's Dre Smith,
at Brianna Ponte,
and at Relationship Restored on all social handles there. So
they on TikTok, y'all.
We on TikTok.
I know.
We on TikTok. See ya.
Them.